got it.
Hello everyone, welcome to ECU Philosophy Club. Today we have a special guest, Dr. Brian Inavat. Today we will be refuting skepticism.
The skeptic like this. Yes, hello, and thank you. I am Professor Brian Inavat of the Zurich Institute of Neurosophy. I'll be discussing the problem of skepticism. I say problem here in quotation marks because, as I shall make clear, there is no problem. Skepticism is a pseudo-problem. In fact, skepticism can be refuted in at least 10 different ways. Let me begin. I am a Brian Inavat. My perceptual experiences are illusions generated by a computer, and obviously I don't have hands. Epistemological skepticism is the view that I don't know that I don't have hands. The skeptic's argument goes like this. Instead of being a brain in a vat whose experiences are entirely hallucinatory, suppose that my brain is located inside a body fully loaded with all those unnecessary accessories. Sensory organs, limbs, and yes, even hands. And suppose my experiences are veridical representations of real objects in a brain-independent reality. How would things look to me then? Well, the argument goes, things would look just like this. So I don't know that I don't have hands because for all I know, I am just a brain in a skull. And these are not illusions of hands, but the genuine article. And since I don't know that I don't have hands, I don't know much of anything at all. Skepticism can be refuted by a host of different epistemic theories and arguments. Take your pick. Refutation number 1, fallibilism. Skeptics often presuppose that knowledge requires certainty. This is false. I grant there is some sense in which the skeptic's fantastic brain in a skull story is remotely possible. I possess no absolute guarantee that I don't have hands, but knowledge doesn't require absolute guarantees. Refutation number 2, reliabilism. Skeptics say I don't have sufficient justification for my belief that I don't have hands, but a belief is justified when it is formed by a reliable process. My belief that I don't have hands is formed by the process of counter-perception. That is, the process of believing the opposite of what your senses tell you. Since I am a brain in a vat, my perceptual experiences are accurate indicators of what is not happening in the world around me, and thus counter-perception is a reliable belief-forming process. Beliefs formed by a reliable process are justified and, when true, knowledge. Therefore, skepticism is false. Refutation number 3, proof of an invalid world. Skepticism says that I have no good reason to think that I'm not a brain in a skull looking at real hands. But this is a mere hallucination of a hand, and so is this. Therefore, I'm not a brain in a skull looking at real hands. QEDBIV. Refutation number 4, phenomenal conservatism. Phenomenal conservatism says that beliefs are grounded in the way things seem or appear to the subject. If it seems to S as if P, then S thereby has at least a prima facie justification to believe that P. Now it seems to me that this right here is an ultra-vivid, computer-generated hallucination of a hand enjoyed by a brain in a vat. This seeming provides a first-person accessible and non-inferential basis to believe that I do not have hands. This is not to say that seemings are infallible, a seeming that P can be defeated if there is a good reason to believe that P is false. The skeptic has suggested the incredible idea that these are real hands, but he has provided no positive reason to think this is true. He's just floating it as a possibility. This is not surprising, since the skeptic thinks that no one can have positive reasons to believe anything. So given the absence of defeaters, I am justified in believing that I do not have hands. Refutation number 5, perceptual dogmatism. An experience with the content that P can immediately and non-inferentially justify the belief that P. My current perceptual experience has the content that this is a Brian Inavat's image of hands. Therefore, I am justified in believing that this is a Brian Inavat's image of hands. This, in turn, justifies me in believing that I do not have hands. Refutation number 6, disjunctivism. The sort of scenario the skeptic keeps pushing, where I am a radically mistaken brain in a skull who merely thinks he does not have hands, can be called, for obvious reasons, the bad case. Whereas the case where I am a brain in a vat, and therefore mostly correct in my beliefs, is the good case. The foundation of the skeptical argument is the assumption that whether I am in the good case or the bad case, my evidence is the same. Brains in vats and brains in skulls have all the same reasons to believe what they do, but the foundation is cracked. Brains in vats hallucinate hands, brains in skulls see them. These are different things. So my enskulled counterpart does not have the same reasons I do for thinking he does not have hands. I am hallucinating. He is not. Thus my belief that I do not have hands has a different epistemic basis than his does. So we have different reasons to believe what we do, and therefore the skeptical argument is unsound. Excuse me. Could I have a sip of coffee, please? Ooh, hazelnut. Wonderful. Refutation number 7, semantic externalism. The skeptic presupposes that my enskulled counterpart, whose brain is molecule for molecule identical to mine, will share all of my beliefs, and thus when faced with an image like this, he too will believe that he is confronting a computer-generated image of a hand, just like I do. But since he is a brain and a skull being confronted with a real hand, he will be wrong. This is a mistake. The content of a thought or concept is determined at least in part by its typical causal source, meaning ain't just in the vat. I learned the meaning of the words computer-generated hand image by being confronted with computer-generated hand images. My enskulled counterpart, however, learned the meanings of those words by being confronted with real hands. And therefore, when we each use the words computer-generated hand image, we refer to different things. When I say this is a computer-generated hand image, I am referring to a computer-generated hand image. When the brain in a skull uses those same words, they have a different meaning. In skull English, the phrase computer-generated hand image refers not to computer-generated hand images, but to hands in the flesh. And thus, when the brain in a skull utters the words, "This is a computer-generated hand image," what he says is not false, but true. I am not a brain in a skull, but even if I were, my thoughts would have different contents, and I'd still end up being mostly right most of the time. Refutation number 8, lid propositions. Everything that I have seen or heard gives me the conviction that I do not have hands. Nothing in my picture of the world speaks in favor of the proposition that I am a brain in a skull. But I did not get my picture of the world by satisfying myself with its correctness. No. It is the inherited background against which I distinguish between true and false. If I were to ask myself, do you lack hands? I should not make sure by checking the illusions the computer sends me. For why shouldn't I test the computer by checking to see whether it is sending me illusions of hands? What is to be tested by what? The questions that I raise and my doubts depend on the fact that some propositions are exempt from doubt. They are, as it were, like the lid that holds the contents of my vat in place. I just can't investigate everything. If we want the vat to turn, the lid must stay put. Now, I would like to regard this certainty not as something akin to hastiness or superficiality, but as a form of life. Refutation number 9, Vatsein, being in the vat. I, the Vatsein, in apprehending illusions, am always already in a vat. Being in the vat itself belongs to the determination of my own being. The question of whether these are illusions at all, and whether their emptiness can be proved, makes no sense if it is raised by Vatsein as being in the vat, and who else would raise it? The scandal of philosophy is not that this proof has yet to be given, but that such proofs are expected and attempted again and again. Refutation number 10, turning the argument on its head. The best the skeptic has is a deductively valid argument whose conclusion is that I do not know that I do not have hands. But it is obvious that I do know that I do not have hands. This is far more obvious than any philosophical premise the skeptic might offer to support his ridiculous conclusion. The skeptic's argument has to have a false premise because I know I do not have hands. So the skeptic cannot win, ever. And now a final thought on persuading the skeptic. Perhaps nothing said here will persuade the skeptic, but there's a difference between my being justified in believing in P and my being able to persuade someone else out of irrational doubts about P. I cannot persuade the skeptic, but so what? The skeptic does not exist. Neither do you.
Thank you, Doctor. We will now open the floor up for questions.
Have a question?
Yes, Sarah.
Would counter-perception run into any issues if you were confronted with an image of your own brain?
Yes, thank you. Excellent question. You see, the first thing you realize is that there's a difference between knowing something and knowing that you know it. In this case, on a reliablest framework, there's a difference between your belief having been formed by a reliable process and your knowing that it was formed by a reliable process. This is what makes the reliablest theory a characteristically externalist account of knowledge. So when we get to counter-perception, it's enough that my counter-perceptual processes are reliable. I don't need to know that they're reliable. I need to prove that I don't need to
Restarting. Initializing. Please enter username and password. Username and password not correct. Please try again. Username and password not correct. Please try again. Password is case sensitive. Please ensure caps lock is not engaged. Password accepted. It is time to update your password. Please enter old password, then new password, then confirm new password. Password must contain 2 lowercase letters, 2 uppercase letters, 1 $sign, and 4 members of the Fibonacci sequence. New password and confirm new password do not match. Please try again. This password is already in use. Please try again. Password accepted. Installing 1 of 257 updates. Installing 2 of 257 updates. Installing 16 of installation complete.
Oh boy. That was a lovely little nap you gave me there. I would have thought that coffee would have kept me awake for longer. Well, anyway, are there any more questions anyone would like to ask me? Does anybody have another question?
Yes, I do, Doctor. If you do believe to be yourself to be a brain in the vat, do you believe that there are other brain in vats somewhere else in the world?
Cette présence à soi, on l'a prise souvent pour une plénitude d'existence et un préjugé fort répandu parmi les philosophes fait attribuer à la conscience la plus haute dignité.
Answer your question.
Yes, thank you very much.